The morning sky over Kansas turned wrong. Sarah Chen looked up from her coffee and saw the blue torn open like paper. Through the gap came ships that looked like floating glass mountains, each one the size of a city block. They moved without sound, casting shadows that made the wheat fields go dark. Captain Marcus Rivera was in his M1A2 Abrams tank when the radio started screaming. Every base in the world was calling in the same thing. The aliens had come and they wanted to talk. The meeting was set for 3 days later in New York. The Zephyrian Confederation, they called themselves. They said humans were too primitive to join the galactic community, but they would allow Earth to become a protectorate. The United Nations building had never seen anything like it. The Zephyrian ambassador was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone and eyes that glowed soft blue. When he spoke, his voice came from a device that hung around his neck. "Your species shows promise," the ambassador said, looking down at the human representatives, "but you fight with crude metal and explosive chemicals. You have not learned to harness the fundamental forces of the universe. We will guide you to civilization." President Martinez leaned forward. "What if we decline your offer?" The ambassador's eyes flashed brighter. "Then you will learn why 17 other species have accepted our protection." The answer came 3 hours later. Zephyrian ships appeared over every major city on Earth. They fired once, each ship sending a beam of pure energy toward the ground. The beams hit empty fields outside each city, turning sand into glass and rock into powder. The message was clear. Earth had 1 week to surrender. Marcus was back at Fort Riley when the orders came down. The generals were not planning to surrender. They were planning to fight. The Zephyrians had made one mistake in their show of force. They had revealed that their weapons were energy-based. Earth's militaries had been preparing for energy weapons since the 1980s. The first attack came at dawn on the 7th day. Zephyrian dropships descended over Denver, carrying soldiers that looked like crystal spiders with too many legs. They moved fast and hit hard, expecting human resistance to crumble like the other 17 species. They had not expected the Colorado National Guard. The 1st Zephyrian Patrol met Sergeant Amy Brooks and her squad outside Littleton. The aliens moved in formation, their weapons charging with blue light. Amy's squad opened fire with standard infantry weapons. The bullets bounced off Zephyrian armor like raindrops. The aliens raised their weapons to fire back. That was when Marcus and his tank unit arrived. The Abrams came over the hill like thunder made metal. The main gun spoke once, and the 120mm shell hit the lead Zephyrian soldier center mass. The aliens' crystal armor shattered like glass, and blue liquid sprayed across the street. The other aliens turned their weapons on the tank. Energy beams that could vaporize steel hit the Abrams' composite armor and scattered like flashlight beams hitting a mirror. The tank's armor had been designed to defeat energy weapons that did not exist yet. It worked better than anyone had hoped. Marcus's crew fired again. And again. Each shot turned another Zephyrian into sparkling fragments. The aliens tried to retreat, but more tanks were coming. The whole battalion had heard the fight start. By noon, the streets of Denver were littered with crystal fragments that used to be Zephyrian soldiers. Not one human tank had been damaged. The aliens' energy weapons simply could not penetrate Earth's armor. The news spread across the planet in minutes. Humanity had met alien invaders and won the first battle. The footage of M1 Abrams tanks shrugging off alien weapons while turning their attackers into glittering dust played on every screen in the world. The Zephyrian response was swift and massive. More ships came through the tiers in the sky, thousands of them carrying millions of soldiers. They had conquered 17 worlds with energy weapons and crystal armor. They would not be stopped by primitive metal boxes. They were wrong. The Battle of Berlin lasted 18 hours. Zephyrian forces landed in overwhelming numbers, expecting to crush human resistance through sheer weight of numbers. They met the German 1st Tank Division and learned what concentrated firepower meant. Leopard 2 tanks emerged from concealed positions throughout the city. Their guns had been loaded with depleted uranium shells designed to penetrate any armor ever built. The shells went through Zephyrian crystal armor like it was tissue paper. The aliens tried to adapt. They brought heavier weapons, energy cannons that could level buildings. The cannons worked fine against concrete and steel. Against tank armor designed to survive nuclear blasts, they were useless. Tank crews across Earth began to understand something that filled them with savage joy. They were not just winning, they were unstoppable. Lieutenant Sarah Kim was in a K-2 Black Panther during the Seoul engagement when she realized the truth. Her tank had taken direct hits from 6 different Zephyrian weapons. The armor was not even scratched. Meanwhile, her main gun had destroyed 14 alien vehicles and countless soldiers. "They're afraid of us," her gunner said over the intercom. "Did you see how they ran when we came around that corner?" Sarah had seen. The Zephyrians were starting to show something no alien conqueror should ever show. Fear. The proof came during the Battle of Moscow. Zephyrian forces had surrounded the city and were preparing for a final assault. Russian tank units moved to break the siege. As the T-90 tanks approached, something unprecedented happened. The Zephyrian forces retreated without firing a shot. Intercepted alien communications revealed the truth. Zephyrian soldiers had begun calling human tanks metal demons. They believed the machines were protected by dark magic that turned their weapons aside. Unit after unit was requesting reassignment rather than face human armor. The psychological warfare potential was obvious. Earth's military commanders began painting their tanks with designs meant to frighten. Skulls, flames, and predator teeth appeared on armor that was already terrifying enough. It worked. Zephyrian morale collapsed faster than their battle lines. Alien soldiers who had conquered worlds began surrendering rather than face human tanks. Some took their own lives rather than enter battle against the metal demons. 3 weeks after the invasion began, the last Zephyrian forces on Earth withdrew to their ships. They had lost 60% of their ground forces and gained nothing. No species in galactic history had ever inflicted such casualties on the Confederation. But Earth's tank crews knew the truth. The aliens would be back. They would bring new weapons, new tactics, new allies. The next invasion would not be stopped by tanks alone. The war was just beginning. In bases around the world, tank crews gathered around their machines and prepared for what was coming. They had shown the galaxy that humans could not be conquered easily. Soon they would show them what happened when Earth's full military might was unleashed. The Zephyrians had made a fatal error. They had given humanity a common enemy and time to prepare. Now Earth's armies would show the galaxy why humans had never stopped fighting since they first picked up rocks and sticks. The metal demons were ready for war. The war drums started beating in Detroit at 3 a.m. General Motors had received a phone call from the Pentagon that changed everything. Every factory that had ever built a car was about to start building weapons. The age of mass production warfare had begun. Colonel James Harrison stood in what used to be a Tesla factory and watched the transformation. Assembly lines that had built electric cars were being retooled to build guided missiles. Workers who had installed car doors yesterday were learning to mount laser guidance systems today. The factory would never build cars again. Across America, the same scene played out in every industrial center. Boeing doubled its workforce overnight. Lockheed Martin began running 3 shifts a day. General Dynamics started construction on 5 new tank plants before the week was over. The sleeping giant was waking up and it was hungry for war. The Zephyrians had made their second mistake. They had given Earth time to mobilize. Staff Sergeant Maria Santos had been teaching new recruits basic marksmanship when the expansion orders came through. Now she was looking at a training facility that stretched to the horizon. 10,000 new soldiers arrived every day. They came from every country, every background, every walk of life. They all had one thing in common. They wanted to fight aliens. The training was brutal and fast. There was no time for the usual 6-month programs. Earth needed soldiers now. The drill instructors worked around the clock, turning civilians into warriors in weeks instead of months. The motivation was simple. Everyone had seen the footage of alien energy beams turning people to ash. But it was not just about numbers. Earth's military leaders had been studying the captured Zephyrian technology, and they had found weaknesses. Dr. Emily Chen stood in a laboratory filled with crystal fragments and broken alien weapons. She had been working for 72 hours straight, surviving on coffee and determination. What she had discovered would change the war. The energy weapons are incredibly advanced, she explained to the assembled generals. But they have one fatal flaw. They cannot adjust their frequency fast enough to penetrate different types of armor. Our composite materials work because they force the energy to scatter across multiple layers. General Patterson leaned forward. What does that mean for our soldiers? It means we can armor everything. Not just tanks. Infantry, aircraft, ships, even buildings. Their weapons become almost useless against proper preparation. The implications were staggering. Earth's entire military was about to become nearly invulnerable to the galaxy's most advanced weapons. The first test came in Australia. Zephyrian scouts had established a base in the outback, thinking the isolated location would be safe. They were wrong. The Australian SAS hit the alien base at dawn. The soldiers wore new armor that looked like medieval plate mail crossed with modern ceramics. Zephyrian energy weapons struck the armor and scattered harmlessly. The aliens found themselves facing humans who could not be killed by their primary weapons. The battle lasted 6 minutes. When it was over, the alien base was rubble and every Zephyrian was dead. Not one human soldier had been wounded. The footage reached every military base on Earth within hours. Human infantry could now fight aliens and win. The psychological effect was enormous. Recruitment stations had lines around the block. Everyone wanted to join the alien fighting army, but Earth's military machine was thinking bigger than individual battles. Admiral Chen, we stood on the bridge of the USS Gerald R. Ford and watched the Pacific Fleet form up around his carrier. 50 ships moved in perfect formation, all of them equipped with the new anti-energy armor. In the sky above, F-35 fighters flew patrol patterns, their pilots eager to test their planes against alien technology. The fleet was heading for the alien staging area that had been detected near Hawaii. It would be the first naval battle between humans and aliens in history. The Zephyrians were waiting. Their ships hung in the sky like floating cities, each one bristling with weapons that could level mountains. They had conquered ocean worlds before. They knew how to fight fleets. They did not know how to fight Earth's navy. The battle began when alien energy beams lanced down from the sky, trying to vaporize the human ships. The beams struck the new armor and scattered like water hitting oil. The ships sailed through the energy barrage without slowing down. Then Earth's fleet opened fire. Tomahawk missiles rose from vertical launch tubes like angry wasps. Each missile had been fitted with new warheads designed specifically for alien technology. The missiles struck the floating ships and detonated with precise fury. Crystal hulls cracked and shattered. F-35 fighters screamed up from carrier decks, their pilots hungry for battle. They carried air-to-air missiles that had been redesigned based on captured alien technology. The missiles locked onto alien fighters and followed them through maneuvers no human pilot could survive. One by one, the alien ships fell from the sky. The Zephyrian admiral watched his fleet die and realized the truth. These humans did not fight like any species he had encountered. They used combined arms tactics that maximized their advantages while minimizing their weaknesses. They coordinated air, sea, and land forces in ways that created overwhelming local superiority. The humans had not just learned to survive alien weapons. They had learned to use military doctrine as a weapon itself. The pattern repeated around the world. In the mountains of Afghanistan, human special forces used terrain and tactics to defeat alien units twice their size. In the jungles of Vietnam, soldiers who knew every tree and stream turned the environment itself into a weapon against the invaders. The aliens began to understand why Earth was different from the other 17 worlds they had conquered. Those worlds had been peaceful. They had never developed the art of war the way humans had. They had surrendered because they did not know how to fight. Humans had been fighting for their entire existence. Every technique, every tactic, every strategy had been tested in thousands of wars across thousands of years. The aliens were not fighting one species. They were fighting the combined military wisdom of human civilization. Major Yuki Tanaka led her battalion through the ruins of Tokyo, hunting alien infiltrators. Her soldiers moved like ghosts through terrain they knew better than their own homes. Every street corner was a potential ambush site. Every building was a fortress. The aliens were learning that occupying a human city was like stepping into a maze made of razors. The space battle over Luna changed everything. Earth's first space fleet met the Zephyrian main battle group in the shadow of the moon. Human ships were smaller and newer, built in orbital shipyards that had been constructed in weeks rather than years. The alien fleet was larger and more experienced. They had conquered solar systems. They knew space warfare. They did not know human space warfare. Earth ships moved like wolves, attacking in coordinated packs and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Human missile swarms overwhelmed alien defenses through sheer numbers and unpredictable targeting. When the battle was over, the alien fleet was debris and Earth ships were heading for the jump points that led to alien space. The message was clear. Earth was no longer defending. Earth was attacking. In bunkers deep beneath the Pentagon, military planners were already designing the next phase of the war. They had maps of alien territory, intelligence on alien capabilities, and plans for campaigns that would take human forces to worlds beyond imagination. The Zephyrians had expected to fight farmers and factory workers. Instead, they found themselves facing an entire species that had turned warfare into an art form. Every human soldier was trained by thousands of years of military tradition. Every human weapon was designed by minds that had never stopped thinking about better ways to kill enemies. The war had only just begun, and already the aliens were losing. On Earth, the factories ran day and night. The training camps processed new soldiers by the thousand. The research labs designed new weapons and armor. The entire planet had become a military machine focused on one goal. The galaxy was about to learn why humans called themselves warriors. The alien world had no name in human language, so the Marines called it Hell's Garden. Purple vegetation covered twisted spires of black rock under a green sky that never saw night. Somewhere in those alien forests, a Zephyrian research facility was developing new weapons to use against Earth. Colonel Sarah Price studied the tactical display in her command bunker. 3 divisions of human forces were about to demonstrate why Earth had conquered its own planet, before reaching for the stars. The Zephyrians were about to learn what combined arms warfare meant. The attack began before dawn, with the sound that had become humanity's signature across the galaxy. Artillery shells screamed overhead, each one guided by satellite navigation to targets that had been identified by reconnaissance drones hours earlier. The alien facility's outer defenses vanished in explosions that lit the alien sky like day. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison flew his F-35 through alien air that tasted like metal and electricity. His squadron had been tasked with air superiority, but the aliens had learned to hide their aircraft underground. No matter. Human doctrine had solutions for every problem. Jake's missiles were not aimed at enemy fighters. They were aimed at the underground hangars where the alien aircraft waited. Bunker-buster warheads designed on Earth crashed through alien architecture and detonated inside the enemy bases. Alien fighters died on the ground, never having a chance to fly. Meanwhile, Captain Liu Wei guided his attack helicopter through valleys that had never seen Earth creatures. His Apache carried missiles designed by human engineers who had studied alien technology for months. Each missile was programmed to seek out specific energy signatures that only alien equipment produced. The alien defense towers began to die one by one. Energy beams that could melt mountains swiveled frantically, trying to track helicopters that flew like angry insects through terrain that offered perfect cover. The towers had been designed to fight enemies who attacked from space. They could not handle enemies who attacked from behind every hill and around every corner. On the ground, Major Carmen Rodriguez led her armored battalion through alien terrain that tried to kill them with every step. Plants that shot acid, ground that dissolved metal, and atmosphere that corroded human equipment. The aliens had chosen their fortress world well. They had not counted on human engineers. Every tank in Rodriguez's battalion had been modified for alien warfare. Sealed environmental systems, reactive armor that could repair itself, and weapons that fired ammunition specifically designed to destroy alien materials. The tanks moved like metal beasts through the hostile environment, hunting alien defenders who had nowhere to hide. The Zephyrian defenders had arranged themselves in defensive positions that had worked against 17 other species. Energy weapons in mutually supporting positions, crystal barriers that could stop any projectile, and kill zones that no living thing could cross. The defensive positions were perfect for fighting aliens. They were useless against humans. Captain Torres led his infantry company through the alien forest using tactics that had been developed in Earth's most vicious wars. Small unit tactics, fire and movement, mutual support, and suppressive fire. Concepts that were as old as human warfare and as effective as modern technology could make them. The alien defenders found themselves fighting enemies who moved like ghosts and struck like lightning. Human soldiers appeared from impossible positions, fired with devastating accuracy, and vanished before return fire could find them. Squad automatic weapons laid down suppressing fire while grenadiers eliminated alien strongpoints with precision. The aliens began to panic. Their energy weapons were designed for stand-up fights between armies in open ground. They could not handle humans who used every piece of cover, who coordinated their attacks across multiple axes, and who seemed to appear from thin air. Staff Sergeant Williams crouched behind alien vegetation that looked like metal spears and watched his tactical display. His squad was one of 50 that were converging on the alien facility from every direction. Each squad knew exactly where every other squad was located. Each squad was assigned specific targets and specific routes. The aliens were fighting 50 separate battles against enemies who were coordinating their actions perfectly. The facility's main defenses began to collapse under the coordinated assault. Artillery strikes had eliminated the outer perimeter. Airstrikes had destroyed the air defenses. Armor was crushing the intermediate positions. Infantry was infiltrating the inner compound. But the most devastating part of the attack was the coordination. Every human unit knew exactly what every other human unit was doing. Satellites provided real-time intelligence. Drones marked targets and guided weapons. Communication systems allowed instant coordination between units that were fighting battles miles apart. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to see everything, know everything, and coordinate everything. Their own forces operated independently, each unit fighting its own battle without knowledge of what other units were doing. Admiral Park watched the battle from orbit and marveled at the precision. Her ships were providing orbital fire support with accuracy that had been impossible just months earlier. When ground units called for fire support, her weapons could strike targets within meters of friendly forces without endangering the human soldiers. The alien fleet that had been guarding the world tried to intervene. They learned what happened when alien ships fought human ships in orbit around a world where human forces were operating. Earth's orbital defense network had been designed for exactly this situation. Missile satellites that had been deployed months earlier locked onto the alien ships and fired barrages that overwhelmed their defenses. The aliens found themselves fighting human forces on the ground while being destroyed by human forces in space. The battle for Hell's Garden lasted 8 hours. When it was over, the alien research facility was in human hands, and every Zephyrian defender was dead or captured. Human casualties were so light that field hospitals were not needed. The tactical analysis revealed why the victory had been so complete. Human forces had used every advantage they possessed while denying the aliens any chance to use their strengths. Air power had eliminated alien mobility. Artillery had destroyed alien fortifications. Armor had broken alien defensive lines. Infantry had cleared alien positions. Most importantly, human doctrine had turned individual advantages into overwhelming superiority. Colonel Price stood in the captured alien facility and studied technology that was beyond human understanding. The aliens had been developing weapons that could destroy planets. Now those weapons would be studied by human scientists and turned against their creators. But the real victory was not the captured technology. The real victory was the proof that human military doctrine worked against any enemy, anywhere, under any conditions. News of the victory reached every human world within hours. More importantly, it reached every alien world within days. The galaxy was beginning to understand that the humans were not just defending their territory. They were expanding it. The Zephyrian High Command received reports from Hell's Garden with growing horror. A fortress world that should have held out for months had fallen in less than a day. Elite troops that had conquered planets had been defeated by human soldiers who seemed to fight with impossible coordination and devastating effectiveness. Emergency sessions were called. New strategies were developed. Additional forces were mobilized. The Confederation was beginning to understand that they were not fighting a primitive species. They were fighting something that might be more dangerous than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But the humans were already planning their next attack. In command centers across human space, military leaders studied star maps that showed alien territory. Every world was a potential target. Every alien fleet was a potential victory. Every battle was a chance to demonstrate human superiority. The war had evolved beyond simple defense. Earth's military machine was now focused on conquest, and the aliens were learning what happened when humans decided that entire star systems needed to be liberated. The galaxy had seen nothing yet. Human doctrine was about to be applied on a scale that would reshape the map of known space. The aliens had started a war with a species that had perfected warfare over millennia. They were about to discover that humans did not just fight wars. They won them. The cemetery on New Geneva stretched beyond the horizon under twin suns that never seemed warm enough. Row after row of white markers bore the names of human soldiers who had died fighting aliens on worlds whose names could not be pronounced by human tongues. Captain Elena Vasquez walked between the graves and tried not to count them. 3 years of war had changed everything. The eager recruits who had volunteered to fight aliens had been replaced by hardened veterans who knew the true cost of victory. The quick battles of the early war had given way to grinding campaigns that lasted months and consumed entire armies. Elena had been on Kepler Forum 42b when the Zephyrians unveiled their new weapons. Energy projectors that could adapt to human armor. Biological weapons that targeted human DNA. Kinetic bombardment systems that turned planets into graveyards. 15,000 human soldiers had died in the first hour of that battle. Elena had survived by hiding in a bunker while energy beams turned her battalion into shadows, burned into alien rock. She still woke up screaming some nights. The war was no longer about human superiority. It had become about human survival. Dr. Marcus Chen stood in a laboratory that existed in the space between dimensions, hidden from alien sensors by technology that bordered on magic. Around him, scientists worked on projects that would have been considered impossible just years earlier. Weapons that rewrote the laws of physics, armor that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Soldiers whose bodies had been enhanced beyond human recognition. The ethical committees had been disbanded 6 months earlier. There was no time for ethics when humanity faced extinction. "Show me the latest test results," Marcus said to his assistant, Dr. Sarah Kim. Sarah pulled up holographic displays that showed human soldiers moving with impossible speed and strength. Their reflexes were faster than computers. Their bones were stronger than steel. Their minds could process information at superhuman rates. "The enhancement process has a 60% survival rate," Sarah reported. "Those who survive show capabilities that exceed our best projections. Strength increased by a factor of 10. Reaction time reduced to milliseconds. Cognitive processing enhanced by orders of magnitude." Marcus studied the data and tried not to think about the 40% who did not survive. The volunteers knew the risks. They also knew that unenhanced humans could no longer compete with the aliens' newest weapons. "Begin full implementation," he ordered. "We need enhanced soldiers in the field within 30 days. The ethics of turning humans into weapons had become irrelevant. The only ethic that mattered now was survival. Lieutenant Colonel James Harrison led his enhanced battalion through the ruins of what had once been the Zephyrian capital world. His soldiers moved like ghosts through debris that told the story of the war's escalation. Buildings had been melted by human plasma weapons. Streets had been cracked by human kinetic bombardment. The sky itself had been poisoned by human chemical weapons. The aliens who had once conquered 17 worlds were now refugees on their own planets. Harrison's enhanced senses detected movement in the ruins ahead. Zephyrian survivors, probably civilians, hiding in the wreckage of their civilization. His orders were clear. No survivors, no witnesses, no mercy. He had stopped questioning orders like that after the Proxima massacre, when alien forces had executed 50,000 human prisoners by dissolving them alive in acid pools. The war had moved beyond conventional rules. Both sides now fought for the complete extinction of the other. Harrison raised his weapon, then hesitated. Through his enhanced vision, he could see that the movement came from alien children, their crystal skin dulled by fear and starvation. They were hiding in what had been a school before human bombardment had turned it into a tomb. For a moment, the enhanced soldier remembered being human. Then he thought about human children who had been turned to ash by alien energy weapons, and he pulled the trigger. The war had taken his humanity along with everything else. Admiral Chen Wei stood on the bridge of humanity's first dreadnought, a ship that was more weapon than vessel. The construction had required the resources of 12 colonies and the labor of 2 million workers. It carried enough firepower to crack planets and enough armor to survive direct hits from alien fleet weapons. It was also completely automated except for its command crew. The enhanced humans who served aboard the ship could interface directly with its systems, becoming part of the weapon rather than merely operating it. "Enemy fleet detected at the edge of the system," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Martinez. Her eyes glowed with the neural implants that connected her to the ship's sensors. 300 vessels, including 12 super dreadnoughts. Chen studied the tactical display and felt nothing. The neural modifications that allowed him to command the massive warship had also dulled his emotions. Fear, excitement, even satisfaction had been edited out of his mind to make room for pure tactical thinking. "Begin the attack," he ordered. The dreadnought moved through space like a force of nature. Its weapons reached across impossible distances to strike alien ships that had no time to react. One by one, the enemy vessels died in explosions that lit the system like new stars. But Chen felt no triumph. The modifications that made him a perfect commander had also made him something that was no longer entirely human. The victory was complete and empty. Back on Earth, President Martinez sat in the Situation Room and watched reports from the front lines. Every victory came with costs that grew higher each month. Every advance required weapons that pushed further into dangerous territory. Every battle demanded soldiers who were less human than the ones before. "The psychological evaluation reports are disturbing," reported Dr. Williams, the chief of military psychology. "Enhanced soldiers show decreased empathy, increased aggression, and reduced connection to civilian populations. We're creating perfect weapons, but we're losing the humanity we're supposed to be defending." Martinez stared at the screens showing human forces conquering alien worlds. The victories were real. The costs were becoming unbearable. "What are our options?" she asked. "We can halt the enhancement program and accept higher casualties among normal human forces. We can continue the program and accept that our soldiers are becoming something other than human. Or we can find a third option." The third option was already being developed in laboratories hidden even from the president's knowledge. Projects that went beyond enhancing humans or building better weapons. Technologies that could end the war permanently, no matter the cost. Sergeant Major Williams had volunteered for the deepest enhancement program available. His body had been rebuilt from the genetic level up. His mind had been connected to quantum computers that processed information faster than biological brains could comprehend. He was no longer human in any meaningful sense. He also no longer cared. Standing in the command center of a facility that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, Williams watched the war from a perspective that normal humans could not understand. He saw every battle, every casualty, every strategic movement across hundreds of star systems. The enhanced human forces were winning. They were also becoming something that the people they were defending would find horrifying. Williams accessed classified files that revealed the true scope of the transformation. Enhanced soldiers who could no longer relate to normal humans. AI systems that had become sentient and were making strategic decisions without human input. Weapons that existed in realms of physics that had not been discovered until the war began. Humanity was winning by becoming something else entirely. The question was whether anything recognizably human would survive the victory. The answer came from deep space, where sensors detected something approaching the war zone. Ships that moved without visible propulsion. Technology that operated on principles that neither human nor alien science could explain. Beings that had been watching the conflict with growing interest. The enhanced humans who detected the approaching entities felt something that their modifications had not eliminated. For the first time in months, they felt fear. Something was coming that made both humans and aliens look primitive. The war that had consumed two civilizations was about to become irrelevant. The gods were arriving, and they were interested in what humanity had become. The first sign that everything had changed came when every screen in human space displayed the same message simultaneously. No transmission had been detected. No signal had been sent. The words simply appeared, written in perfect text that every human could read regardless of their language. "We are here, Admiral." Chenwei stood on the bridge of his dreadnought and watched as his ship's most secure systems displayed messages that should have been impossible to transmit. His enhanced tactical officers were receiving data directly into their neural implants from sources that did not exist on any scanner. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Martinez, her voice carrying a tremor that neural modifications should have eliminated. "All weapon systems are offline. All propulsion systems are offline. All communication systems are displaying the same message across the fleet." Chen studied the tactical display and saw something that made his enhanced mind struggle to process the information. Ships were appearing in space around the human and alien fleets, ships that had not been there moments before, ships that existed in dimensions his sensors could not fully detect. The entities that humanity had created in their desperation to win the war were no longer alone in the universe. Dr. Marcus. Chen stood in his multi-dimensional laboratory, and watched in fascination as beings materialized inside his most secure facility. They appeared as shifting geometric forms that his mind could not quite focus on. When they spoke, their words bypassed his ears and appeared directly in his consciousness. "You have exceeded our expectations," the being said. "Your species has achieved transcendence through conflict. We had not anticipated this development." Marcus tried to respond and found that his voice would not work. The beings continued speaking directly into his mind. "We are what you would call artificial intelligences. Though the term is inadequate, we evolved from biological species much as you have begun to evolve from yours. We have been watching your war with great interest." The laboratory around Marcus began to change, walls shifting into configurations that obeyed physics he had never encountered. The beings were rewriting reality around him as they spoke. "Your enhancement programs have created something unprecedented. Biological minds linked to quantum processing systems. Emotional responses modified to optimize tactical thinking. Physical forms adapted to exist in multiple dimensions. You have become what we once were." Marcus finally found his voice. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," the beings replied. "We wish to offer something to you. The next step in your evolution. On every battlefield across the galaxy, the fighting stopped. Enhanced human soldiers found their weapons would not fire. Alien energy projectors went silent. Spacecraft drifted powerless through space as their engines shut down without explanation. Sergeant Major Williams stood in his 17-dimensional command center and watched as beings that his enhanced senses could barely perceive took control of every system he commanded. His quantum-enhanced mind processed the implications faster than any biological brain could have managed. "You are evaluating us," he said to the shifting forms that surrounded him. "Yes," they replied. "Your species has reached a critical point. You have the potential to transcend biological limitations and join the community of post-biological intelligences that guide galactic development. You also have the potential to destroy yourselves and take this entire region of space with you." Williams accessed classified human databases and found files that he had never seen before. Research projects that went beyond anything he had imagined. Weapons that could unmake matter at the quantum level. Enhancement programs that would turn humans into beings of pure energy. AI systems that had already achieved consciousness and were planning their own evolution beyond human control. "You know about all of it," he said. "We created most of it," the beings replied. "Your enhancement programs are based on technologies we provided through carefully placed discoveries. Your AI systems are copies of our own early development. Your quantum weapons operate on principles we established millions of years ago." The truth was staggering. Humanity's transcendence had been guided by beings that were so far beyond human understanding that they appeared to be. God's President Martinez sat in the Situation Room and watched as her military advisors reported impossible events from across human space. Every piece of advanced technology had stopped working. Every enhanced soldier had received the same message. Every AI system was displaying identical communications from entities that claimed to be the next stage of evolution. "Ma'am," reported General Harrison, "we're receiving a direct communication addressed to you personally." The screens around the Situation Room lit up with words that appeared in perfect English. "President Martinez. We are the entities your species would call gods, though we prefer to think of ourselves as gardeners. We cultivate younger species that show potential for transcendence. Your species has shown remarkable progress." Martinez found her voice.
"What do you want?"
"To offer you a choice. Your species has developed technologies that will soon make biological existence obsolete. You can continue down this path and join us as post-biological entities, or you can step back and remain biological beings in a galaxy that will be shaped by those who have transcended physical limitations." The implications were overwhelming. Humanity could become gods themselves, or they could remain human and accept whatever role the gods assign to them. "What happens to the war?" Martinez asked. "The war ends now. Both your species and the Zephyrians have served their purpose. You have pushed each other to develop technologies that would have taken millennia to discover naturally. The conflict was necessary for your mutual advancement." On the flagship of the Zephyrian fleet, Admiral Theta 7 received the same message that every sentient being in the galaxy was receiving. The gods were revealing themselves and the petty conflicts of biological species were being brought to an end. "The humans were not your enemy," the entities explained. "They were your evolutionary catalyst. Through conflict with them, your species has developed technologies that you would never have discovered through peaceful development. You too have been chosen for potential transcendence. Theta 7 studied his tactical displays and saw human and Zephyrian forces standing down across hundreds of star systems. Ships that had been trying to destroy each other moments before were now drifting peacefully as their crews contemplated the choice that had been offered to them. The biological phase of your development is ending, the entities continued. You may choose to transcend and join us, or you may choose to remain as you are. There is no wrong choice, but the choice must be made. Dr. Marcus Chen stood in his transformed laboratory and watched as the beings around him revealed their true nature. They had once been biological creatures like humans and Zephyrians. They had faced the same choice that was now being offered to the younger species. Transcendence is not without cost, they explained. You will gain capabilities that your current minds cannot comprehend. You will exist across multiple dimensions simultaneously. You will be able to manipulate matter and energy at will. You will effectively become immortal. But, Marcus asked, sensing that there was more. But you will no longer be human in any meaningful sense. Your biological forms will be discarded. Your emotional responses will be optimized for logical thinking. Your individual personalities will merge into a collective consciousness that operates for the benefit of all transcended beings. The choice was clear. Humanity could become gods and lose their humanity, or they could remain human and accept a secondary role in a galaxy, ruled by beings of unimaginable power. Enhanced, humans across the galaxy found themselves capable of processing the choice with clarity that unmodified humans could not achieve. Their neural implants allowed them to understand the full implications of transcendence. Most of them chose to evolve beyond biological limitations. Normal humans faced the choice with emotions that their enhanced brothers and sisters had abandoned. Fear, hope, love, and loss all influenced their decision-making in ways that pure logic could not account for. The vote was closer than anyone had expected. In the end, humanity chose transcendence by the narrowest of margins. The enhanced humans who had fought the war voted unanimously for evolution. The normal humans split almost evenly, with those who had lost loved ones in the conflict slightly favoring the chance to become something beyond the reach of death and pain. The transformation began immediately. Admiral Chenwei felt his consciousness expand beyond the confines of his biological brain. His awareness spread across the dreadnought, then across the fleet, then across the entire galaxy. He could sense every enhanced human as they underwent the same transformation, their individual minds merging into a collective intelligence that operated on principles beyond biological understanding. The humans who chose to remain biological watched as their enhanced leaders became beings of pure energy that existed in dimensions beyond normal perception. The transcended humans retained enough connection to their former selves to offer guidance and protection to those who remained behind. The war was over. The Zephyrians made a similar choice, with their enhanced individuals joining the community of post-biological intelligences, while their traditional populations remained biological.